All right, welcome back, everybody. You already know what it is. It's KMF Radio, and I'm here with the man who needs no introduction. It's my second favorite commentator, my boy, one half of the Japan Time commentary crew. It's my boy Virum. What's good, bro?
Good evening, brother Tito. My own second favorite
Yo,
commentator.
that's what I'm
Glad to
saying.
be here.
You know
Thanks
what
for
I'm
having me,
saying? I
brother.
appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. We just gonna talk for a little bit. I know it's what is it like 11 o'clock over there?
Yeah, just about coming up to 11
What time do
o'clock.
you sleep usually?
I've been getting into the routine of sleeping between 11 and 1. Of course, Japan time days are the exception,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've been somehow stabilizing at that for the past month. I used to have an ultra degen sleep cycle, but
Oh yeah, but we're old now, bro.
yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
we're up there, bro. Like like I used to like eat 3 a.m. I used to be able to tank that. And then I remember
hmm
like I blinked and I was like, bro, 1 a.m., bro, I'm sleepy. Like I'm old as hell. I'm old as hell.
Crazy. Just in the younger years, it's so easy to get through the all-nighters.
Bro, I
And you're just like
remember
powering
fucking
through.
1 year at CEO. I had 2 blocks at CEO. I did not sleep for 48 hours.
Sheesh.
But I ate that. I ate that. I was like in my early 20s. I was like, I think I slept maybe like I took like an hour nap somewhere around there, probably just like involuntarily. But other than that, bro, like it was just people were walking around, people were drinking. We hit the hot tub. Like, remember events? That's tough.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the last one I was at was Let's Make Big Moves.
Oh,
So that was a
true.
couple months ago. But then prior to that, it had been years.
Yeah, I stay at home con now. I got a year pass.
True.
I got a year pass. Well, first of all, we appreciate everybody in the chat coming through. We're going to be taking questions towards the end. For anybody who has a question for Virum, go ahead and post it in the chat. For those people on YouTube, all of Virum's links and stuff like that will be in the description below. But for those of you who are new to the chat and or watching this video for the first time, this is just a conversation, a chat with some people that I know, that I'm friends with, because obviously I don't want to talk to people I don't know or like. But it's when you are surrounded by content creators, people who specialize in particular fields, especially within the esports content creation realm, you get really tired of talking about the same things all the time. At least I find. So this series is kind of just to talk about anything other than the thing that to kind of provide a more well-rounded view. So if you're looking for Smash questions, if you're looking for any of that, no, we're not. We're talking about anything other than Smash in this conversation. I want to start by talking about. It's close, but it's not. You see, a lot of people do know this now, but for a while, it wasn't really necessarily something that people were on. But you've worked on games before, so
I have, yes.
yeah, you've worked on a few games. And as soon as I'm done with Horizon, Solar Ash is next, so I'm super excited. Um, it's just they're like literally with Horizon. I'm like, oh, am I done yet? No. All right, are we done yet? No. All right, we're keep going. But I'm gonna get into that in the next couple of weeks, and I'm excited because it looks gorgeous. But when as someone, it's the effect of like when you do something, you look at that thing differently when other people do it.
Yep,
Like when
yep.
you like you and I can't listen to anybody cast anything anymore, really, and not like on some deeper level try to break it down. Is
hmm
is that the same thing for you for games? Like can you just enjoy it or like without the brain automatically going, oh, I remember, working on this or doing this, or I know how hard that was. Like how does your experience in the actual development process impact positively or negatively your ability to actually enjoy video games?
I definitely say it affects it in both ways. I feel like obviously I work particularly within the field of animation. I've been an animator within the industry since 2016. I studied it at uni and I kind of discovered that I wanted to go into it while I was still in school. So having worked on both mods and games, I feel like when I'm looking at particularly the visual and artistic aspects of games, I feel like I'm very much kind of analyzing them a bit under a microscope. But then as a result, when I notice the little details and I can see just how difficult and how hard certain aspects of the game would have been to develop, I find it incredibly impressive. Just seeing uh, little attention to detail aspects, like I don't know, really nice transitional animations between different game states, or just really robust, well built animation systems, and just honestly high quality animation, both 2D and 3D. Because even though I'm strictly a 3D animator, I adore looking at good 2D animation
Right,
as well.
right.
Um,
Who doesn't? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's such a timeless style of animation when it's done well. And like you look at old Disney movies, or you look at just pretty much anything that's good in 2D, and it still holds up
yeah,
incredibly well. In the context of games, there are plenty of really good looking SNES games and Game Boy games that have just aged incredibly well visually because they've stuck with the 2D style. Um, but that's not to say that, of course, 3D animation can't have its share of impressive feats either. Even outside of like the big AAA stuff like Horizon, as you're playing like Elden Ring,
right.
the way that I think a lot of 3D animators are able to be quite minimalist with things and be stylized in really appealing ways, I think is also incredibly cool.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely something that I think about a lot when I work on things or try to enjoy things or even just kind of absorb things when I know the mechanics behind it. Because like you said, it's good and bad, right? It could be
Mm.
like and it's not just with, I don't even it got to the point for me, and we've talked about this, I can't listen to anybody commentate Smash anymore. I just can't. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
yeah, like it's like I just can't do it anymore. And like even some of my closest friends, I can't I'm too attached to that. So like when you are playing a game, because like right now you're playing Triangle Strategy, like you're that's like
Yeah.
a thing that you're in. Um, it's a very that JRPG. Grindy is always has a negative connotation. I don't think it's inherently negative, but um, the that particular style of development and game making, that for lack of a better word, that Japanese style of development, what is the appeal that you find in those types of games? Because you McDareth, Roger, Zeph, you guys really enjoy kind of the Japanese style games. The JRPG would be kind of like the the pinnacle of that. So what is it about that genre that really like brings you in?
Um, it's definitely a combination of things. I think I'd say it started with the first Xenoblade, because I was much more focused on platforming games when I was younger, right? I loved Mario, Sonic, Kirby, all that jazz. And I still do. But it was when I was, I believe, 16, 17 when I first played Xenoblade Chronicles, and I really got to experience a big like story driven like narrative for the first time in that sort of game. And I think I just kind of fell in love with the idea of that. I really love, in the case of Xenoblade, I love being able to kind of explore these big worlds. In the case of games like Persona, I really like the characters and themes and how they're all handled. I think I'd say the big one overall is usually the characters. When I find myself getting attached to these franchises, I really get into the characters. I really like seeing like fan art from all sorts of different artists for them. Um, and I don't know, I really just enjoy these kind of long time sink games that you can play at a relatively slow pace as well. Like I could play uh, if I wanted to, I could just chip in a little bit of time every now and then over a long period of time as a relatively small commitment to a game like Persona or Xenoblade.
Right.
um, without feeling like I have to rush to finish it. And although I say that, but what usually happens is that I sink in hours at a time and
Yeah.
just get really sucked in. But yeah, I really like just a combination of those sorts of elements.
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know.
I
It
see.
kind
I
of
definitely see what you're saying.
yeah
Like, I
yeah
relate to that for sure because it's one of those things where we talked about this on Japan Time a little bit yesterday when I was talking about Elden Ring, where I don't like my games to overwhelm me with choice.
mhm,
And what I find is, and I think I'm seeing a nugget of that on what you're saying is when the ability to take a game like Persona 5, like Triangle Strategy, like Fire Emblem, and go at it at whatever pace you want. Go at it, play as little or as much as you want. Now, inevitably, obviously, we end up putting hours into these games anyway. But the no need to rush. Whereas alternatively, if there's a new fighting game coming out, which is another, and we'll talk about fighting games in a second, but another thing that
mm,
you and I both love, that's a race against the clock. That
yeah
is to get as good as possible, as quick as possible, as opposed to a much more leisurely. Because anytime you're not in the lab, you're lose someone else is. So it's like you're by not getting better, you're inevitably becoming worse in a lot,
yeah.
especially when it's a brand new fighting game coming out, like a Grand Blue, like a DNF Duel, like a Guilty Gear Strive, like any of these games that you know it's just like so I definitely see the appeal of the game where you could just play it and you don't have to worry about nobody else fucking you up. You just play the game and you just go, all right, so maybe today is the day I'll romance Makoto. Like maybe I'll do that today. Like that'll be the you know? Um I mean, and we'll talk about fighting games, but first, Virum, what's the best beverage?
Oof. The best,
The best beverage.
the best beverage.
That's not water.
Yeah,
Water's
okay, yeah,
crazy.
obviously,
Water's
yeah.
crazy. Like water's broken. But we're not gonna
Yeah.
count water. I wouldn't even call water a beverage. Really, it's like more.
It's just essential to
It's
life.
yeah. It's just
That's
a
all it
thing
is.
that
Yeah.
you need. But what's the best beverage?
You know, I'm gonna go for pressed orange juice, not concentrate, specifically pressed. It has to be pressed
Mm,
because otherwise, like, even as a kid, right? Like as a kid, I had plenty of concentrated juice and like juice drinks and stuff, right? I loved concentrate apple juice, but I never liked orange juice because it was sour. But once I had pressed orange juice, that was life changing, bro.
so you be drinking that pulp.
With or without pulp,
All
I'm
right.
fine either
All
way.
right. I understand. I understand. Like it's one of those things. I like orange juice, but I gotta be in the mood for orange juice. Like I gotta
Mm,
want orange, like because sometimes orange juice, it's exactly what you need, and nothing else on earth can replace orange juice.
yeah,
Nothing on earth. But sometimes you're like, do I want orange juice? But when you do, bro, sheesh.
yeah. I
Um,
feel that. I feel that.
yeah, it's crazy. A thing that I've always and I was talking about this with Roger when he was here last time, where we all talk shit, we all roast each other, we all do all that stuff, we all make fun of each other because we're all because there's a certain level of respect, right? Unless you're like Fidel, right? Everyone
Yeah.
else, we all have a certain level of respect, and that's why we are able to do that. There's that mutual understanding, and I've known you for a pretty long time at this point.
Hmm.
And I'm always a big person about giving people flowers while they're here. That's a thing that and the thing that I always admired about you in particular is you take a very like the word artistic is the word that I would use to describe you. You're very creative, and just like obviously from your profession, the way you dress. You're always the best looking. You're always the best dressed person at any event. Like I think no one like I think when I was in 2016, when I was in Pound 2016, when I commentated, my first real major tournament in 2016, I remember hearing about you because I get to meet you. I hearing about this guy who would show up in like work clothes, like in business attire, like in slacks, and I was like, that's fire to me because every other commentator, and you remember this at the time, was wearing like hoodies and t-shirts and fucking whatever the hell they're wearing, right? They're just like literally waking up, taking a shower, putting on whatever they have, and then going to the event and commentating. But you were the first person to actually treat it like a job. And I think, not to get into Smash specifically, but is there something about that approach to everything you do? You're a very professional person. Was that something that you learned growing up, or something that you were taught as a family, or is that something that just inherently was always with you, where you treat everything, you're a very professional person, you're in that way?
Yes. So I would say a lot of that comes from my parents, specifically my dad. My dad has always been a very kind of sharp, well-dressed person throughout all of my life. And so he's definitely somebody that I've looked up to. He's somebody that kind of helped drill the idea of, presenting oneself well, taking care of oneself, taking pride in one's appearance. Uh, a line that I've had in my Twitter banner for ages is drink tea and take pride in your appearance. The latter part has been in my bio, I think, uh, pretty much the entire time I've had Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I always like to try to present myself in that way. Somebody who, gives a damn about how, um, how I present myself. And my dad as well has always had a bit more of a traditional aesthetic, very much one from like his time growing up when he was around my age, the mid to late 80s, 90s, that kind of look. And he's
Right.
always been inspired by the sharpness of like the 50s as well. And so I think I kind of took inspiration from that while also keeping it a bit more modern as well in terms of how I dress in general. Because there's plenty of times where I'll be dressed in much more loose, much more relaxed clothing, but when I feel like I have a job to do, when I feel like I have to, when I feel like I'm at some kind of social gathering or an event, I want to put my best foot forward, at
Right.
least in terms of how I present myself. You never know who's going to be there at
Yeah.
these events. Like
Yeah.
if I'm going to be going to a major event and maybe I want to network with people there, uh, then of course I want to present myself in a way that comes off as professional as possible.
Yeah, I remember at CEO when I think we were the only two people that whole weekend who actually like commentated in suits together. Like I think there were other people who commentated in suits. Like I was never a jacket guy. I've never been a jacket guy, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely I was definitely there with the tie because I mean that's what I wear to work. So it's like it wasn't anything crazy. But like I remember you and I waiting to go on, and I saw you and you were all suited up, and I was like, oh shit, the armor is on. The boy's ready for war, bro. He was like, because and that's what you were saying, right? You had a job to do, you put it on, and I'm sure it helps your confidence because like especially with a lot of the big spots you've had, Evo Japan, top eights at whatever, basically commentating every Smash top eight in the UK, damn near, right? But like
Mhm.
I'm sure that helps with the confidence too. Like I think that's a lesson that you might not have known when you were younger, but as you got older, you definitely were like, oh well, yeah, it's you look good, you feel good type thing. Like that's real. That's
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like it really just helps kind of solidify a brand as well. And I think that's um that's the approach that I've really enjoyed leaning into just as an individual. It feels very kind of natural to me. As I mentioned before, just growing up, it was kind of an idea that was put into my head by my parents. And obviously, I think a lot of us have ideas that were put into our heads by our parents for better or for worse. And I definitely think this one was for the better. And yeah, it's just definitely an aspect of myself that I can feel confident and proud in.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, as you grow older and you start to take those lessons you were taught as a kid and then make them your own. Like you start to accept them, right? It's no
Mm.
longer a thing that you were always doing because you were told to always do it. Now you're doing it because you decide to do it, and you can kind of see, the rationale behind it.
Yeah.
Um when you talked about your parents, you talked about, growing up, how like how was, growing up in the house of Virum? Like how like what like because I don't think because that's the thing a lot of people might not know about, which is something that I'm always really interested in talking about whenever I talk to my friends. I'm like, I don't think a lot of people understand that, like, the barrier between content creator, which is a very blanket term, but let's use it for now, and
Yeah.
person is very real. Like that's a real wall that
Absolutely.
a lot of people have trouble. And so when they say things about whoever, they forget that that person is, you know, someone's son, someone's daughter, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
So how was it growing up in um you know in the house of Virum, or and kind of what did that look like?
So I have an older sister. I only have one sibling. She is a lot older than me. She's 11 years older than me. And so we only spent about 7 of my years growing up together in the same house. Afterwards, she left for uni and then she moved to her own place. So I essentially lived a lot of my time in the house, essentially as an only child. I never really felt like an only child because obviously my sister was still there, but yeah, I was essentially I had a lot of kind of my own space. Um and I think growing up I have been very, very fortunate in a lot of ways. My parents have always been able to look out for me in a lot of things. I've always been able to uh, succeed pretty well in the areas that I tried it hard enough in, and even in the places that I failed, like uni, for instance. I actually didn't graduate uni, funnily enough. I was still able to pick myself back up from there. I think largely in part due to the support of my immediate family. And something that I realized growing up is that having that kind of support is actually not normal.
Yeah.
A lot of households are not like that. And it wasn't until I was a young adult slash like in my late teens where I came to that realization, because I was also around a good number of people that had that were part of relatively, you know, comfortable households. A lot of their parents were still together. Maybe they had one or two siblings. They were able to live very comfortably. And I think while I'm incredibly grateful to have been able to live in that kind of environment, I'm also grateful to the amount of freedom that my parents had given me. They let me, they gave me, well, they trusted me enough to be able to, go out on my own, meet other people, go to events and such. At a relatively young age, I started going when I was, I think, 16, 17. And it was from there that I got to meet all sorts of people from so many different walks of life, as well as at some other points as I was growing up. And I think that is really what helped open my eyes to just how lucky I was, and just how interesting and different people across the world are. I think it's so fascinating in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I think, back when I was teaching high school, always recommended traveling somewhere,
Mm,
anywhere. It literally doesn't matter. because I don't think there's a thing that makes you grow up faster than getting out of your hometown for an amount of time. Like, I don't think, like, or at least getting out regularly. Because some of the most well-rounded people that I know, you know, have seen the world. And I think there would be a lot less, not to get on a soapbox, but I mean, I think we've talked about this. There'd be a lot less closed-mindedness and bigotry if people just literally left their hometown and drove 100 miles in any direction. Like,
Yeah.
it's in, but the like you were saying, most people don't do that, which is crazy. Most people never leave their hometown. Most people never leave the state that they're living in the United States. Most people never leave the country. I mean, like, it's a thing that you don't realize it, like you were saying, until you get much older. For sure.
Yeah. I think
Do you think
definitely in
that?
the
Do you think that, like, going to all these events, meeting all these different people, because as you know, especially in the early years, the you know, esports, quote unquote, before it was even called that, community is very eclectic, I guess is the word. Like,
yes.
do you think as, because you were going to these events, interacting with people basically during your formative years, do you think you realize now, as you're older, the impact that had on not only like what you do, but kind of like the way you think and the way you approach life and people?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Just having gone to all the events that I have and meeting a lot of the people that I have, I've made some of my closest friends over the past. How long have I been going to events for now? Almost 10 years. I've made some of my closest friends, a lot of people that I still talk to regularly to this day. I meet up with them frequently outside of Smash just to, hang out, uh, play games at someone's house, meet up for lunch, have dinner together, whatever, go watch a movie, just do pretty much anything, even if it's not pertaining to Smash at all. And it's so fascinating just to be able to uh, get to know all of these sorts of people and just the different sorts of lives that they lead, because uh, I think a community as eclectic as you said, as the Smash community, as the FGC, and just esports in general, you get to see all sorts of really, really uh, interesting people from completely different walks of life. Prior to, as a random example, prior to joining the Smash community, I didn't know very many gay people. I didn't know, well, in fact, in general, I didn't know very many LGBTQ people as a whole. And now I know quite a lot across this community, some of which I'm incredibly close friends with. Some of them are some of the most lovely people that I know. And I think growing up with a perspective of open-mindedness alongside being able to actually physically interact with these people has helped form me into a very well-rounded, accepting person in that regard. And it's one of the aspects of myself that I think that I'm happiest about.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not going to make the assumption that growing up as a person of color in the UK is anywhere similar to the United States, for better or worse, because I just don't know. But I remember for a very long time when I was growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, interacting with people of anything other than like you had to have like a melanin requirement to, like, from my parent, for like for like you to come over my house, basically, like, because of the just the sheer nature of the cultural mechanisms, the tribal mentality that every culture has.
Hmm.
And we all, regardless of where you come from, become slaves to that, become subservient to that mentality, especially you as you dig deeper.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
yeah, and for sure, I remember not necessarily meeting, like you were saying, I didn't really know that many people of the LGBTQ community. I I didn't hang out. There were a lot of white people that I knew, but I didn't hang out with any white people because I was basically told either not to by their parents, by my parents, and I think going to these events and becoming more open, not necessarily open in the sense where I need to change my mind, but open in the sense where now I had the opportunity away from those devices to interact with people on the human level. Do you find that as a person of color becoming into a community that surprisingly has a large percentage of it being of color, did you find that helped you become more comfortable in any way? Like, because you're going from one, you're going from your home to a place where you find people who might be able to relate with you more, or did it not even matter?
So that's actually really interesting because for me specifically, and I actually think I'm in a relative minority when it comes to this kind of situation. I surprisingly didn't know too many black folk growing up, aside from my immediate family members and close family friends. I didn't. My dad went through quite a bit of hardship as he was growing up, as he was trying to reach his goals and aspirations. And so consequently, both my parents really are and still are incredibly hardworking. And that allowed both my sister and I to have much more kind of fortunate childhoods. I actually went to private schools for most of my years growing up. So like paid schools essentially.
Yeah.
And so most of the people that I knew in school were not black. I remember distinctly when I was in secondary school, there are about 750, I want to say, total students, and you could count the number of black students on one hand. It's pretty nuts in that regard. So, but at the same time, as I mentioned before, I still interacted a decent-ish amount with my close family, of course, and family friends. So getting into the Smash scene in FGC, where there were, more people of color relative, was I'm not quite sure how to describe it. It's like it's kind of like the opposite of how you felt, but in a good way, where it's like I'm around people of my own color, but I'm also around all of these other different people. So
No,
it's
yeah, no, I
it's
see what you're
just
saying.
yeah. It's
I
honestly very cool.
No, yeah, no, I see what you're like. I think that it's just two different roads to the same conclusion.
Yeah,
Where it's like
exactly.
you're seeing people that who look like you that you didn't really interact with just because of where you're at, but they're in higher number percentage wise, right? Like they're just more, and I'm seeing, relative to what I was seeing, less, but more of everybody else. And
Mm.
I think that if anything, the internet is literally undefeated, but it's also the worst thing to ever exist. But
Yeah,
like, I think for sure in this specific instance, like the internet is undefeated. Like it's broken. Like, because I don't think I'm not gonna say never, but it's very unlikely that you and I get those experiences without without the internet, without that type of communication existing. Because
100%.
it's like, what are we gonna do? Like what are we, I'm just gonna hang out with more people named Jorge, and you're just gonna keep hanging out with the people you're hanging out with, and you're never gonna have the opportunity, not even because again, I think all it takes is for people who I think are good-hearted people is that they just need to have the opportunity to meet someone new, and I
Mm.
think that's really hard to do, and it's really scary at times, and I think a lot of people just need to be more honest about the fact that a lot of it is like traveling and getting out there and bro, I'm sure it was the same for you, but like people who go to events now, who are going to their first events like now, like when I say now, I mean like 2019, like they don't know how different it was in like 2010, like the 2010, 2011, 2012, where it was it was like literally a warehouse. And like you there's what's the most people you've ever had in one hotel room? Like who stayed there?
Oof. Maybe so for me, I didn't start doing hotel rooms at events until it kind of leveled out.
Yeah.
So I'd say the most was probably about 6, but
Oh, okay.
but like prior to that, I was used one of my first out of region events that I went to. I was sleeping in a tent outside. And
What?
It was cold. It was cold.
What?
It was raining.
What are you doing out there? Get out of there. Come back
oh my God,
inside.
it was, bro, the first day after that, so it was like a 3-day event. And the first night I was in the tent and I was like, no, I'm not doing this again. And the second night I went inside and just slept in my sleeping bag on the venue floor. And let me tell you, that was exponentially more comfortable.
That's crazy.
Sleeping on the hard floor.
That's insane. That reminds me of like all of the that reminds me of like all of the, because if you commentate long enough, you acquire just the stories.
Yep.
And the stories that I always love is like, what's the weirdest thing that you've been paid in? Like it's like instead of money, like sometimes people be like, yeah, they got my hotel room. That's boring. Like I remember one time, I'm not gonna say the event, not that I give a shit, but it's just like there's no point. I went to this event and they told me they were gonna give me a hotel room. They did not. So I just stayed in someone else's hotel room that was staff, and I said, I'm sleeping here because I was told this, and no one stopped me. And then when I time to collect payment, they didn't have enough money to pay for the They had enough money to pay everybody. They just didn't want to pay me because they wanted to pay themselves. So instead, they paid me in 2 large pizzas and a diet Dr. Coke or Dr. Pepper. They gave me 2 large pizzas and a diet Dr. Pepper 2-liter. That's what they gave me. That's what they gave me. That's what the guy in charge of what I was doing, and again, I'm trying not to say names. I'll tell you later. But the guy handed me 2 pizzas, a diet Dr. Pepper, 2-liter, and said, "Hey, bro, this is all I got for you, homie. But you can have this." And I said, "What?"
That right there is a true early 2010s payment.
What? What? And you know what's crazy? I'll tell you right now. This year, it was way past 2010.
Oh, no.
That's how crazy it is, bro. That's how crazy that is. When I tell you the year, I literally can't say the year because then they'll know exactly what it is. But when I tell you this year, bro, remind me later, you're going to flip your shit. It's different. Let's put it this way. It's past 2014 for sure.
Oof.
Do you remember the early days of like commentating and like being awful and like reading chat and just like having your self-esteem destroyed and then having to rebuild it from the ground up?
Yes. Well, I definitely remember the days of being awful. And actually, that's something that I want to say to add on is it is hard for people now because I feel like we were allowed to be awful.
Yeah.
The new commentators are not allowed to be awful.
No.
You will get destroyed.
No, I think I blame Gimmer, but I truly believe this. I think I was the last commentator that was allowed to be bad. I really think that because the reason being is that I started my first day commentating Virum. I don't know if I've told you the story. My first day commentating, okay, I knew EE from Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, I had met him a few times, but I knew nobody else. I pull up to Xanadu one day. I don't remember how I got there. I think I carpooled with a couple of other people. I'm in college, okay? It is the week or 2 weeks after Smash 4 comes out. I had never commentated a day in my life, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. I said, I don't give a fuck about nothing else. That's what I'm gonna do. So I pull up and I commentate a set with EE. Okay? And EE in the middle of the set looks at me, mouths the words, "What are you doing?" Takes off his headphones and walks away in the middle of the set.
God. God.
Because I'm just like, he's like trying to talk to me, and I had played a little bit of Brawl, I played a little bit of Melee, but I literally didn't know what I was doing. Like, I didn't know anything about anything ever. And keep in mind, this is like, you know, it's EE sitting next to me, but this is like 2014 EE. This is 2016 EE. Like, Phil don't give a shit at this point. Like, and this is Xanadu. It's Xanadu. the most important weekly in the history of Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
On the same level, it is literally the NLBC of Smash. Literally.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Like, literally. Like, there's nothing else that will ever be better than 2016 to 2019-ish Xanadu. Like, not, like, that will just, like... And I remember sitting there, trying to commentate. I remember specifically, it was Meta Knight versus DDD. And I had no idea what was going on. And I'm reading the chat, and they are flaming me, bro. I've never seen the N-word that much in my life. They were still using the F word back then. They were out here roasting me, bro. They were telling me to go kill myself. It was crazy. It was insane. But I think you're right. Like, they're not, like, kids aren't allowed to be bad anymore. Ever. At all. Ever. Because back then, bro, Virum, in 2016, remember that? They didn't even have clips back then.
Nope.
You had to go to a different website.
The young odd shot.
You had to odd shot that bitch.
Bro.
You had to odd shot that bitch. You had to odd shot that bitch. And sometimes odd shot didn't even work. And by sometimes, I mean like half the time, odd shot wouldn't even work if your internet connection wasn't crazy. If you had a booty net, never mind you being on mobile, and mind there's no app. That means you literally have the web browser on your phone watching the stream. It was crazy. It was crazy. It's just, how does anybody get good now?
It's tough. I think the other thing as well is that, you know, we started commentating at a time where no one was good. Even the people who are among the best right now,
they were fine.
They didn't start that good.
Yeah, they were fine.
And
objectively, like not even hating, comparatively, they were fine.
But of course now they're so much better,
right?
And other people are a lot better, and so they're constantly being compared between these people. And so if you're not doing, you know, high standard major level commentary, then people just don't want to listen to you. Like, the people will not give you the time of day. And you see people, you know, genuinely trying hard to become commentators, which is another thing. I feel like a lot of commentators got to that point because they simply just enjoyed hopping on the mic.
Correct.
It wasn't so much about it wasn't so much about, oh man, I really want to become this dedicated commentator for Smash. I want to get good at this particular craft. It's like, no, I just really enjoy the game and I just want an avenue to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then from there, you grow and you improve at your craft, and it's like, oh, okay, this is how I speak to people about this game. This is how I break down these moments, etc., etc.
Yeah, I had to learn that because that's how I approach everything else in my life up to that point. You go in with a goal and you do the thing, whether or not you like it. And I remember I think it was TK who told me, he was like, bro, do you even like this game? I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, that's true. That's true. And like, and the thing is too, it's, and again, I don't want to talk, we're not really talking about Smash here. We're just talking about casting in general. But yeah. I think the thing that you and I benefited from, just by the time frame in which we started, Vicky's the same way. right? I'm not gonna compare myself to you two because you guys are still doing it, and I stopped because of course I did. But like, we all started around the same time, and when we started around the same time, nobody knew what they wanted. So as long as you did anything well, it worked.
Mm.
So like now, people think they know what they want, and if you're not doing that thing, regardless if you're doing it well or not, it's bad. And that doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense. Like you don't do that with anything else. You don't be like, man, I want pizza, and then you eat a burger and like, this burger trash. I'm like, is it? Bro, it's not a pizza. What? 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 What?
Well, if you wanted a pizza, bro, you should have ordered a pizza.
No, but they don't think that way.
Exactly.
They don't think that way. But I think for where you're at, where do you see yourself with that? I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, I really want you to get that Evo gig for Grand Blue, and I think you're gonna get it. To be honest, if I know how they cast in general, I think you're gonna get it. But where do you where do you see yourself? Do you still have the desire to cast? Or are you trying to go more into the animation? I know you're working on another game right now. Like what are you like? What you thinking, bro? Like what's the move?
Well, animation will always be the primary, unless I could somehow, uh, unless I could be very, very financially stable with commentary, which for FGC commentary you can't. And with like, as in with just the commentary itself, you
Right.
need to do a load of other stuff like content creation
Yeah.
and
Hosting
that's
and a bunch of other shit.
exactly, and that's not so much my vibe. I just like talking about video games.
Yeah.
So animation is always going to be the primary thing. It's a lot more stable, and I still absolutely love doing it. But as long as I keep finding fighting games that I enjoy, we've got a bunch of new ones on the horizon. Uh, if any of them can, if any of them really catch my eye, tickle my fancy, then I will be more than happy to keep commentating them. Granblue in particular has been a really interesting experience because it's kind of like I've been transported as a commentator in a sense, because it reminds me a lot more of how the Smash scene used to be, where it was a lot smaller, a lot more condensed, and the individuals within the scene were a lot closer. Like
Mm-hmm.
the European Granblue scene, because in its current state, it's a Discord fighter, right? If you want to find
Right.
games in that, frequently you have to go on your Discord server and ask people because it's difficult to just hop in a lobby and find games.
Yeah.
And so the community itself is very, very tight knit. And I think I really enjoy that environment and that aspect about it because I think it helps ground me. It helps keep me humble.
Mm.
Because Smash is in this transitional period where it's like it's not fully esports. It's not, it's not League. It's not one of the big shooters. It's not StarCraft. It's none of that. But
Where I put Smash Verum? I put it I put it right next to Rocket League.
mhm,
Literally, it's the same thing.
yeah,
Like I make this comparison all the time, and everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I think I'm right. I think it's exactly like Rocket.
yeah, it's in this like adolescent period where a lot of the people involved in it are kind of starstruck and they want this kind of level of fame and notoriety that comes with being a part, like being a big name within the community. And so I can't help but feel like there's a lot. No, in fact, I won't bother talking about that. I'll use that to pivot back to Granblue, where it's like, commentating Granblue, it doesn't get me anything, right?
Right.
There's nothing lucrative about this Discord fighter. I just love the game
Yeah.
and love talking about it. And, if I can share that joy with other people, that's wonderful. That's honestly the main reason, aside from having not been to Evo for 5 years, that's the main reason why I want to commentate Grand Blue at Evo because I get to talk to more people about it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that'd be a great, opportunity for you. And I definitely think we gotta. It was. I thought it was gonna be Strive. It didn't end up being Strive. We gotta
Yeah.
find our game. I'll come back for you. Nobody else. I'll come back for you, bro. I'm still fire. So like I'll come back for you. We just gotta find the juice, bro. We just gotta find the game. We might
It'll happen. We got games on the horizon.
We got Project L. We got Street Fighter 6. We got DNF Duel. Like, like we'll get there, bro. Like, because like we gotta find the game that we're both like, yes, time to lose the next 3 months of my life. Like we gotta find that. It was gonna be Strive, but then like it's not. It's not.
I mean, I still like watching Strive, but I'm gonna be honest, I haven't booted up the game since Gold Lewis dropped.
Yeah.
So I couldn't commentate that game.
No.
Even if I couldn't commentate that game even if I wanted to because I simply do not know enough about that game to be able to commentate it confidently.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to be the Chris Paul to your fucking. I'm trying to be like your Draymond Green. Like I'm trying to just pass you the ball and then you drop some knowledge on him and then you pass it back to me and I just dribble and I wait and I wait and I pass it back to you and you're like, yeah, well that's actually 6 frames and I'm like, oh shit, and I pass the ball back like it's up. Before we kind of wrap up as we wrap up here, I kind of wanted to talk one last thing about the overall. I mean, we talk a lot about video games with Japan Time. We've talked a lot about video games here. They're clearly a big part of your life. What are some other things, like if all video games disappeared right now, what is like the next thing that you're like, yes, like I could talk about this for hours. I could do this forever.
Ooh, probably like it would probably be art and animation, and even then I'd have to like really specifically focus on a new aspect of it because obviously a lot of what I do animation wise stems from video games.
Right.
So I'd have to be like, okay, well, now I have to animate for films or something like that. But I've been drawing for most of my life. I do it a lot less these days, unfortunately. I'm trying to get back into it because it's just a good thing to have. And that is kind of what led me down the path to wanting to animate. I just find that whole aspect of that whole artistic aspect about it and just seeing how things move, and just the overall mechanics and physicality of a lot of things. I just find that really enticing and really interesting. I think because alongside art at school, I was also pretty good at maths and sciences. And so I think all of that culminated very well into animation because it uses a little bit of all of that. Predominantly art, of course, but getting a sense of forces, weight, gravity, center of mass, all of that stuff. Learning that from physics helps, and then just being able to effectively calculate things also helps with regards to animation as well. So it all just kind of pile on together. But then beyond that, I guess there's like a handful of other things that I, kind of enjoy, like cinema and theater.
See that Batman movie yet? See that Batman movie yet?
I did.
Oh, I'm watching it on Sunday. Is that nice?
Yeah, I think it's good. Okay.
It's long as hell. That's why I've been putting it
off. It's very long. It's like
long
3 hours.
Hell. Right, long as hell. I've been putting
Endgame long.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it on Sunday. But like 3 hours, bro. Let's go. I'm gonna, and as with all of our interviews, we're gonna break the rule once. You must answer the following question in less than. No, you only get one word.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you 3 questions. You get, try to stick to one word. If you can't, then try to make it less than 5. First question, and in our last segment, the best character in Ultimate is
Joker.
the winner of Evo 2020, or excuse me, the winner of the Smash World Tour will be
Spargo.
And the greatest Smash tournament ever is
2GGC Civil War.
Virum. You are one of the coolest people I know. You're a good friend, and I'm privileged to know you. Everybody on YouTube, all Virum stuff is going to be down in the description below. Make sure you go ahead and help Virum. That boy tweets a lot. He got a lot of art and shit on his stuff, obviously. Hope you guys get it over there and get to know him if you haven't done so already. Virum, I appreciate you coming through, bro.
Thanks for having me once again, brother. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hopefully, like we're all gonna do a Japan time thing. We're all gonna meet up, bro, and we're gonna find our game, bro. We're gonna find our game.
We have to find. There has to be like an event where all the Japan time crew can just come through.
I thought
like something that we could
like
want to go to,
or like it was gonna like it's not like it's something like that, like a TwitchCon, like an Evo, like a something.
Yeah.
But we're doing the Mario theme park thing, right? But that's not for like 8 years, like, or whatever the fuck is gonna happen.
That's ages away. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but we'll figure it out. Virum,
the
you're
closest
the best,
thing
brother.
we had. Cheers, brother, man.
Hey, we'll talk. Yeah. We'll talk soon, brother. And I gotta tell you what event that was.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll tell you later. I appreciate you, bro.
Cheers, man. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, Virum, the homie. That's gonna be it for me. I appreciate y'all. The